Good morning, everyone. Technical session number 12 will be starting in a few minutes. So we would like everyone to please settle down and please come in for those who are, I don't think they can hear us. For those who, hello, hello. We would like to request everyone who will be coming into NR3, please come in now. We will be starting in a few minutes. Thank you.
So, good morning. Our session today will be on focusing on community-based climate change adaptation. And we're gonna have for today 5 presentations. And I will be with you, Suha Al-Madbouh, moderating this session for the coming 1 hour, 20 minutes, and with my colleague, Sven Tonsius from Cologne University of Applied Sciences. He will be also supporting me. Of course, as you know, each presentation have the 10 minutes time to present, and we decided, in order to avoid running out of time by the end of the presentations for the discussion part, we decided that after each presentation we're gonna give 3 to 4 minutes discussion time, where we will be first collecting up to 3 questions from the participants and forward them to the presenter to discuss and respond. We will have, as I said, 5 presentations from 2 regions, East Asia, and particularly from India and Sri Lanka, and Southeast Asia, particularly from Indonesia. Allow me to invite and welcome the presenters for today. Please join us in the first row, to sit in the first row. We have, for the first presentation, Ms. Putri Nilam Sari from Andalas University, Indonesia. Welcome. And before we start, we just would like to, but let me invite the other also presenters just to sit together in the front line. The second presenter, she is Neha Yadav from Jawaharlal Neo University in India. Please, you're welcome to join us. Okay, maybe she's not here. The third presenter, Shyam Dav from the UNICEF India. Nice to have you with us. You're welcome. And the fourth presenter, Nilusha Patabandi from the UNICEF Sri Lanka. Shailendra Mandal from the National Institute of Technology, Patna from India. Okay, still not here. Hopefully they will join. Let's start with our first presentation. Ms. Putri Nilam Sari, she's gonna introduce us to the concept of Climate Village program, which is a community-based climate resilience program that basically examines the potential of moving towards nexus action to address not only climate change water-related risks and impacts, but also to go beyond that and address environmental problems related to climate change using a combination of qualitative and quantitative research paradigm. Welcome. Yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I will share about adaptive management of water and environmental change through Climate Village, an Indonesian climate resilience collaboration program towards nexus action. So Indonesia is very vulnerable to climate change, and this is the map of climate change vulnerability in Indonesia. Our warm, watery climate dominates the weather patterns, and it increases the frequency of heavy rainfall and floods. El Nino phenomena also make drought happen in many regions, and also the increasing of land conversion makes soil unable to absorb the rainfall in many places in Indonesia. About the rise of temperature caused by the global warming also increased the evapotranspiration. This is flood happened in central of Jakarta city, capital of Indonesia. And since September this year, we are in Indonesia also experience heavy rainfall in many places. Many disasters happen, which are cause clean water and security, scarcity, and food crisis. To tackle these problems, Ministry of Environment of Indonesia has a program called Climate Village. This program is awarded to a village that has adaptive and mitigation management programs. This also efforts of Indonesian people to achieve national determined contribution. This program has three main the three main programs. There are mitigation, consists of agriculture management, the use of renewable energy, waste management, increased vegetation, forest fire prevention and control, and also greenhouse gases reduction activities. For the adaptation program, there are controlling drought, floods, and landslide impact, food security and water safety program, meteorological disaster management, and control of climate-related disease. We also should doing sustainability support for this program. And this program has widespread throughout in Indonesia, but some studies found that only people in climate village area can adapt and mitigate climate change properly. Lack of commitment, low capacity of the community itself, less effective partnership system, and limited funding. I also conducted a research in a climate village in West Sumatra province in Indonesia. I asked to 78 community representatives and 8 informants from climate village managers. We found that only few people concerned about climate change, and less than half of them could participate in environmental protection. People need to understand the mechanism of global warming to carry out adaptation and mitigation properly. This is a discrepancy because they are only try to solve the problems through the climate village programs, but don't understand about what is the problems completely. It's only a program from the government. Community doesn't understand the climate village activities in sense and their long benefits also. The information source about climate change is from internet and social media, but we found that internet source about climate related information is vulnerable to misinformation. This is also found by Trin et al. And a lot of wrongs and not comprehensive information cause decreasing support for environmental management policies, because most of them believe that climate change is only caused by natural processes. About water management, almost all people doing a good water management, but less than half of them can increase the water infiltration, such as biopore, infiltration wells, trends, etc. The water management is also still conventional there, and it have a risk about clean water and sanitation problems, polluted water source, and unfit for use during prolonged extreme weather change. Community needs to receive sustainable knowledge about simple water management technologies that are easy to apply in daily life. So many cheap, user-friendly, and low-maintenance technology could be shared to community. How about this program and its linkage to Nexus Action? Because this program also have water, energy, and food issues, I describe more about the water safety in this climate village. So, the provision of water infrastructure and personal funds from the community itself has good, and they also have local wisdom. We call it prohibited fish. We cannot polluted river and catch the fish carelessly, because people believe that if they do that, they will be sick or die. Until the tribal chief or community leaders state that they can catch the fish and eat there together. This is also is actually for water preservation and food security for the community. And also many program about water safety there. And for renewable energy, almost people believe that it's necessary to develop more sustainable energy, but only few of them do energy saving. For security, for food security, this climate village has a program called climate schools. To local communities to enable farming communities. This program by meteorological, climatological, and geophysical agency to teach community to learn about climate patterns to improve the quality and quantity of agriculture and plantation. So, we are in universities in Indonesia has three dharma or three pillars of higher education. There are education, research, and community services. This is obligation for Indonesian lecturers to apply knowledge and research to foster community behavior and provide knowledge and innovation from the scientific consensus and research activity in climate resilience toward nexus action. I believe that universities, government, private sectors could work together to improve community behavior through community service programs, because we have many advanced knowledge, many technology to share with community. This also will foster the translation of the knowledge into action, especially for water and energy and foods, to reduce of climate change impacts. This is a picture of my team to teach community about climate change and what we can do to reduce climate change impacts. And this is community leaders, three of them. I also teach children about climate change issue, and this is tree planting activities. And this is their headmaster, and also how to manage the waste properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Putri Sari. Yeah, I would like to open the floor for collecting questions. We can collect 3 questions. Yes. Okay, maybe yes, please.
Yeah, thank you for your nice presentation. Just one question from my side. So, according to you, is there any good adaptation practices in these climate villages that can be transferred to any other villages to your country or any other countries?
This climate village is easily to apply to another village and another country, I think, because only need one adaptation and one mitigation program. And but the problem is this still a program from the government, and the community participation is very low, and we need to work together to success the program. And I think that community can work together and doing the climate change mitigation adaptation properly if we contribute and work together to do that.
Thank you. Further questions? Yes, please.
Is it your is it your recommendation that civil society should be involved in it, and if so, at what stage? At the planning stage, implementation stage, or should the community be involved in these programs again? At what stage?
Yes, of course. My recommendation is we should search for the easiest way to improve the community participation, and we can work together to do that. Yeah.
Okay, one more question.
To what extent is the Climate Village also has like a funding program attached to it, that, but also where the communities decide, so more like participatory budgeting? Is that part of the program? I mean, the government has kind of put it throughout the country, but to what extent does it also empower people to decide how to do these measures?
Honestly, Ministry of Environment has a special program for this, but when I asked to the climate manager in that village, they only have few fundings from a limited number of fundings from the government, and they hope that community can provide the funds from their own to success the program, and that's a problem about community climate village programs actually. So community cannot participate properly there.
Thank you. We still have time if you have further questions for the discussion. One more question we still can take. Otherwise, we can move to the second presentation and save also more time for the discussion. Okay, thank you very much
Thank you.
for the presentation. Yes. Because of a technical issue related to the second presentation, we're gonna postpone it to for the end of the session, and we're gonna start with the third presentation with Mr. Shyam Narayan Dav. Welcome on the stage. He's co-authoring with his colleague on a local community-based water management system, which is called Bungru. And the Bungru system basically injects and stores excess rainfall water underground, and then it's left for use in drought period. Thank you. Yes, the floor is yours. You're welcome.
Good morning, friends, colleagues, co-presenters, the organizers and the moderators. It's a great privilege to be here in this forum for sharing knowledge which is generated with partners in India, Gujarat, focusing on water scarcity, water security, climate change context. I will be sharing one specific learning which is derived from groundwater recharge activities in Kutch, one of the westernmost district which is drought prone, and how community related technology options have enabled them for groundwater recharge. My co-presenters Tejas Deshmukh and Sushant Sahu, these are the two consultants whom they also contributed. They are remotely joined from India. So I will take you through what's the learning. So as we all know, in the conference we have realized, and also from the literature, and we are feeling, entire climate change context has led to lot of extreme weather events, and particularly for water stress. And we see around 54% of India is facing high extreme to extremely high water stress in many of the part of the country, which the data inform that we need to prioritize this particular intervention. If we go into specifics, the over timeline, we can see around 95 to 2011 recently, the number of districts which had groundwater potential has reduced, and the trend is reducing from 92 to 71%. At the same time, we see the overexploited block where groundwater potential has already been exploited. It has increased the number of districts from 3 to now 15. So the percentage of the district. So we can see the impacts of these kinds of water security and climate change. The climate change impact, particularly if you go to wash sector, it's in Indian context, we see the data inform the JMP data that around 718 districts, 2/3 are affected by extreme water depletion. In Gujarat context, I would like to share that in the average rainfall is 30% less than the decadal rain, and on the other side, the heavy rainfall events are also happening. In the past decade, around 106 heavy rainfall in, particularly in Surat, one of the urban district we have seen. So these variabilities are impacting particularly the children, which are most vulnerable in terms of the public health concerns, cholera, diarrhea diseases, waterborne diseases, reduction water quality, etc., and malnutrition and dehydration, depending on which climate extreme we are facing. So together it becomes wash and public health concern when we look at climate change implications. If we budget the available water and the water demand and sectoral issues, we have seen that there is a water gap in terms of demand and supply, around 14,000 plus million cubic meter. And if you see the use in the sectoral distribution, 92% is consumed by agriculture, which is the largest consumer. The entire how to address those issues, what are the policy level challenges which we see, the entire demand driven versus supply driven, or willingness to pay or to charge, O&M capacities at the stakeholder at the community level, the water intensive crops, etc., in terms of preferences, and limited legal framework which is available. So how to really address those challenges which are there both at the higher level and community level. How government is addressing policy level engagements on water safety security. In government of Gujarat, they have the entire Narmada river which is providing water to entire state, both for industry, agriculture and drinking water. Through institutional arrangements, up to the panchayat and village level, there are institutions. Through policy intervention, the entire stakeholder engagement have been done. The WASMO, one of the organization which is empowering village level communities for decentralized management of drinking water. And finally, the Water Resource Development Corporation is an institution supported by World Bank, is looking into the entire groundwater recharge, water security, water conservation. So reaching out to community to inform, make them aware and involved in the process. The Bunguru specifically on this presentation focus, it is basically a bore well which is injecting rainwater into groundwater. The water is then used for irrigation. It can also be used for drinking water after treatment. This artificial recharge is also providing the reducing the salinity through dilution, and also it is helping the communities for both the requirement for the crop and drinking water. This specific design is basically collection of water from the field, and it takes down below around 100 to 200 meter depending on the strata, and then it recharge and store water. The cost is around say 5 to 6 lakh rupees, and this is in addition there is some operation maintenance cost which is involved. The entire the climate adaptation fund have provided those funds. We have the program has constructed around 30 units in 10 villages. We have done the baseline survey, then site selection, and then the capacity building of stakeholder, some kind of subsidy for solar pump to draw water, some training, capacity building, and then drilling cost is more or less equivalent to that. So this becomes a composite unit for recharge plus pumping plus irrigation through sprinkler system to help use the groundwater which is stored. These are some glimpses of the photographs from how it has been done. The entire community-based adaptation practices, it's basically a traditional method of recharging groundwater coupled with a kind of drip irrigation plus solar pump together to make a system to enable community. It's a collective irrigation system for farmers. We have seen the benefits preventing rainwater logging in the area. It collects the water, it stores the water, recharge the groundwater. The underground water availability for irrigation is enhanced. The aquifer gets diluted because if there are issues related to salinity. The efficient use of irrigation through drip irrigation. Solar system also reduces the dependency on diesel electric pump, and it create a model of groundwater recharge storage. In conclude, I would like to say it's a integration of pipe water supply system with decentralized model of water storage. So basically, regular water supply which is provided for drinking water is add-on to complement the local systems, and water security in that particular area is ensured. And through capacity building, local leadership involvement, public-private partnership, the village representative involvement, we can make it a system which help people ensuring water security. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shamian Rayan for the nice presentation. I wouldn't comment on the presentations because I would like to give like 3 key messages, take-home messages at the end of the session, and so to save also some time for the discussion. So the floor is open now for you. If you have any question, please. Yes.
Yes, please.
Yeah, good morning, sir. Nice presentation. So I just want to ask that if this Pungru as a structure for recharging the groundwater and then later on use for agriculture and drinking purpose, and I saw that you're saying around 20-30 units have been implemented in 10 villages across last 2-3 years, and if in terms of cost also is not very much high, around 6 lakh rupees per unit. So what do you think that what are the kind of typical challenges if it is that easy a structure to implement in an arid region like Kutch where water availability is always an issue? Are there any challenges for wide scale implementation of such structures there? Because in terms of numbers, if you see last 2-3 years 10 villages, not that many, and if it is that effective system, it should have been kind of implemented at a kind of a much larger scale. So what challenges or kind of difficulties you think that it would responsible for not wide scale application as such?
I would say this one is it is built upon the traditional groundwater recharging approaches. So it's not, I would say, absolutely new for people or community. There are some ways of doing groundwater recharge through traditional wells in a small scale. This is a kind of improvised system where we are also putting solar pump, sprinkler irrigation, and a systematic deeper connecting to the aquifer based on a baseline assessment of a hydrogeological condition. So it's a scientific way of doing it. 6 lakhs is a cost for the entire bore and system, not the sprinkler or solar. These are the two add-on thing which require another say 5 to 6 lakhs. So together it makes 10 to 12 lakhs depending on how much area we want to irrigate and sprinkler system and solar system. There are subsidies both on sprinkler as well as solar. So government is promoting and the resources are there, but it is a collective community kind of a setting where people, farmers need to come together for this so that they are entitled for those subsidies and scientific assessment. So there is a awareness and demand happening, and I'm sure based on the success, because recently it has been evaluated also. Unless we have evidence of success, people may not really go for invest for this because it's not totally free. So people have to join hands together in a group of farmers. They have to approach for this study and assessment, and they have to work together for distribution of irrigation system. So I think there is a demand, and it will be scaled up. Right now it was done under a project which was supported by National Adaptation Fund, but now it will be taken up in a big way. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you have a second question?
So it's a very nice solution, I think, but what is with the water balance? You are changing the local water balance if you take out these huge volumes of water. So you have the water, but maybe downstream of your area, this water is missing. So did you make some modeling, or what will happen with all this water which is missing somewhere else?
Yeah, of course, when we do rainwater harvesting, particularly in a stream where it is flowing, it creates that kind of disparity in upstream, downstream. But this is something different. It is not a perennial flow which we are checking, or even not in a stream. It is a village pond which takes water of that area and then store and recharge. So I don't really see the conflict of upstream downstream here. It's a water which is falling in their area, and they are collecting in a pond, and they are recharging through that recharge well. So there is a difference in the way you really harvest the water. If you are checking the downstream flow, then of course there will be challenges.
Thank you. Thanks for your presentation. Nice presentation. We'd like to...
One more question. Is it?
Okay, but very short, no?
Yes. This may not a question, but a clarification. You have stated that there is a limitation in the groundwater, the 70% extraction safe, up to 90% semi-critical, something like that. Do you have some regulation, maybe from the government, how to extract groundwater and how much? What are the rules and regulation, or some? Is it farmers are possible to do the groundwater extraction as they wish, or are there any regulation that I mean?
Government has developed a policy on groundwater regulation. There is an act by State Assembly. The challenge is actually in its implementation and actually regulating at ground. So policy exists, implementation gaps are there. So farming is linked to livelihood and food security. So people, when they find water and for irrigation, if they are not if they are rain fed, then certainly It's an area which local administration at the panchayat downstream level need to regulate. The rules are there, but it is challenging to implement that.
Thank you. Thanks for your nice presentation and the comprehensive answers to questions. Yeah, I would like to move now to the third presentation by Ms. Nilusha Patabendi. She basically contributes to our understanding to the potential role of water safety plans when they integrate climate resilient measures to how they would enhance resilience of water supply system in rural areas in Sri Lanka. And these systems basically are managed and sustained by local communities, and she's also using the combination of quantitative and qualitative research methods. Welcome on stage. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. So my presentation is on the climate resilience of water community managed water supply systems in rural Sri Lanka. So we did a comprehensive assessment of rural water supply systems in Sri Lanka with the National Department of Community Water Supply, a national agency who is responsible for the rural water supply services. So we assess the whole the supply systems from catchment to the consumer, but for this analysis I have used the data and information which is related to climate change to understand the existing risks, challenges of rural water supply schemes in responding to the effects of climate change. The Sri Lanka is a country that faces with the number of the multiple natural hazards, floods, landslides, coastal erosion, droughts, and the salinity intrusion. And it has been observed that the frequency and the intensity of those events has been increased over the time. So as a result, of the sea level rise, the changes in rainfall patterns, and the rise in the temperature. So these the rural water community supply schemes are mainly managed by the community, managed by the community-based organizations, but few are managed by the local authorities. So altogether 12% of the population is covered by rural water supply schemes, and most of the time those population lived in the marginalized areas of the country. Methodology. So this is a mix. We used the mix approach. The qualitative and quantitative tools were used for this study, and the data collection tools consisted of the semi-structured questionnaire, the interviews with the technical officers of the department, the caretakers, the office bearers of the community-based organizations, and the direct participant observations and transact walked from the catchment to the household. So those are the tools that we used in the PRA tools. And the sample during the time of the assessment, there were around 4,627 water supply schemes. Out of that, 15% of the sample was selected for this assessment. So this photograph was taken during the community consultation and the mapping exercise that we did with the CBOs. Then findings and discussions. So we found that the 74% of the CBOs mentioned that the water supply is affected by the effects of the climate change. Then in Sri Lanka we have three main climatic zones: dry zone, the wet zone, and the intermediate zone. So most of the rural water supply schemes locates in dry zone. So 70% of water supply schemes has impacted by drought, 15% by floods, 4% landslides, and 3% seawater intrusion, because Sri Lanka is an island country. So those are the water schemes located near to the coastal area. Then this photograph was taken during a flood. situation, and then we analyzed the impacts of the climatic hazards and how they impact on the water supply. So the majority of the water supply schemes impact by the quantity issues, especially during the dry period. The quantity has gone down, and the water supply was not continuous. Sometimes it confined to the few hours of the day or the limited days of a week. Then the water quality issues, because during the flood situation the turbidity is very high, so it's a big issue for the water supply systems. And also during the dry period, the salinity intrusion, due to the salinity intrusion, the drinking water becomes, the salinity content was very high during that period. And in addition to that, we have some issues of the natural contamination of groundwater because of the high amount of the fluoride content and the hardness. The magnesium and calcium carbonate content was high in some areas. So during the drought period, it affect on the water quality issues. And also the demand is very high during the dry period, and supply is less. And also these water supply schemes has provided more connections going beyond the capacity of the water supply system. So the extractions are high where the recharge is not up to that level. So the keeping the right water balance is the issue. So that whole issues created lead to the competition and the conflicts among the communities. And also the managing the water demand is also a problem. So within this context, the CBOs has taken very few measures, limited number of CBOs has taken measures to conserve the water catchment area, to promote the natural recharging and find additional water sources to cater the water demand, and the awareness among users on the efficient water use, and apply groundwater recharging methods in those water schemes is very much less. And also the number of the water supply schemes are used the solar power, even though Sri Lanka has a very good potential of using solar power for water pumping. Yeah, so these are how the catchment was intruded by the commercial activities. And when we analyze the sources of water, so around 80% of the water sources are from the groundwater. So and the very less amount of the schemes are depend on the surface water. So this shows you how critical the issues are. And the application of the water safety planning is a risk assessment tool that was introduced by the WHO to minimize the risk for the drinking water supply. And only 16% of the rural water supply schemes use water safety plan as their risk assessment tools, risk management approach. So these are some of the poorly designed distribution systems. And the conclusion and recommendations. So the climate change has significantly impact on rural water supply schemes due to the reasons that I mentioned earlier. So as a result, the results has shown us the future risk of meeting the demand, and also the water quality deterioration and the depletion of water resources, because they are mainly depend on the groundwater. And the majority of water sources are from the groundwater, and they impose risk of drying up, and some of the schemes are still experiencing that. And the lifetime of the expected lifetime has decreased because of the over consumption and other effects of the climate change. And the few CBOs are taken measures to adaptation measures. So recommendations. The traditional water safety plan approach should be transformed into the climate resilient water safety and security aspects, because this is the approach that are being used in rural water supply schemes, but not at a very satisfactory level. and also the make water safety plan implementation mandatory, the enforced by the law enforcement, and it should be followed up by introducing auditing systems for water safety plan implementation, monitoring systems and regulation mechanism for groundwater use. And also the water safety plan approach need to be coupled with other concepts like the integrated water resource management, which is not happening right now, and the catchment protection and the aquifer, the groundwater recharging, maybe the encourage promoting natural recharging as well as the managed aquifer recharge models. And also right now the UNICEF supported the Department of Rural Water Supply to implement some of those recommendations, and we developed some models for groundwater recharging, and we introduced them. We didn't start the implementation. With the water supply is a devolved subject, so in that sense we worked with number of local authorities to develop bylaws for the catchment protection, and we do a lot of capacity building to implement water safety plan with the climate resilient measures, and develop the capacity of the community as well as the Department of Rural Water Supply scheme. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you. These are the references I used.
Thank you. So now the floor is open for questions. Any question? Maybe I may start with a question. I know that the tool, the qualitative research tool, Transict works, they are really very interesting and they can provide very rich information and data. And you conducted them from the water distribution system to the household. Could you please maybe elaborate more on what kind of data you collected through these works?
Yeah, for the we assess the different aspects of the water catchment, intake, distribution system, the treatment system, and also going beyond that, we had a separate household level questionnaire which I haven't used for this particular analysis, but those results were used to understand the challenges and to provide some policy level recommendations to the government. And at the household level, we basically paid our attention for the water safety and security issues, the behavior change issues, like in terms of the water efficiency, and with the household level water treatment systems, the water management, because we don't have the data on safely managed drinking water, and so whether they are managed the water sources at the household level properly, and water efficiency, and what is how is their behavior during the drought period, and how they manage demand at the household level. So this is how we structured this questionnaire at the household level, and the assessment of the water supply schemes.
Thank you. Thank you. Further questions? Yes, please.
Yeah. Thank you for your very informative presentation. One thing I just want to know, how the solar the pumping is very effective, whether they're in Sri Lanka in the solar system, you pump with the groundwater with the solar system, how much it is effective?
Yeah, unfortunately we haven't any single water scheme that use solar power for water pumping. It's because of it's a kind of I would say we have to address the policy level to that, because even though some initiatives has been taken, some donors came forward to invest on, but there is a resistance from the National Electricity Board to use solar. So we have to overcome those issues at high level, at the political level or the policy level too. So even though there is a high potential of using that, but unfortunately we haven't tapped those potentials.
Thank you. Maybe last one more question, and if not, we can move. Okay. Thank you,
Thank you.
for your presentation. And yeah. So our colleague Shailendra Mandal, he co-authored with his colleagues also on factors promoting or hampering successful climate adaptation action in the metropolitan city of India, based on qualitative interviews and primary documents from 3 case studies. And the authors, they call for a contingent adaptation approach that recognizes the specificity of the institutional and resource constrained environments. Let's enjoy the presentation. Welcome, the floor is yours.
Thanks. Good morning to everyone. I, along with my co-author, the Dr. Supriya Rani, just trying to make how the climate adaptation work in the resource constrained metropolitan cities of India. So this is the exercise which we have carried along with the urban local bodies in our state, Bihar, and the capital city, that is Patna. So this is the structure of my presentation, like how the risk, vulnerability and impacts the Indian cities are there in general, and then the methodology which we have adopted in order to come out with the resiliency plan for the metropolitan cities. And then the urban system analysis, in which we try to understand what are the present scenario and how the climate change is going to impact the different sector. And then the situational analysis and vulnerability analysis, where the shared learning dialogue among the different stakeholders were involved. And then the result and discussion, and then we came up with some of the conclusion into this one. So we'll start with the climate change, and we already know that it is scientifically proven that is going to impact most of the mega cities around the world, and the cities which is lacking in the resource constraint, they have to do a lot of things in order to address the issues of the climate change. And this has already been advocated by the many speakers, researchers around the world. So if you look into the Indian cities, that the climate change has a larger impact in the water availability, water security, sustainability, and it has the ramification in the different sector as well, like the drainage, the urban flooding, the accessibility to the water resources. Then the increase in the temperature, that has already been discussed, and that has already been experienced by the resident of the metropolitan cities during the shared learning dialogue, which we conducted several times with the different ward. We'll talk a little bit about that one, sir. And precipitation trends, if you look into in general and in particular to the city which we have conducted this one, it has reduced, but frequencies of the extreme event has gone up. Means the short duration but intense the rainfall is there into that one. And the resiliency, if you talk about like the absorbed stresses and maintain the function in the face of external stresses, adapt, reorganize, and they evolve, taking consideration of the climate change and all. So material and methods which we used, we have taken the ICLAI and ACCRN process, that how the resiliency plan can be made in order to take all stakeholders on board, where the stakeholders will say these are the things we need in order to manage it. So it's like a kind of involvement of all stakeholders in order to make the climate resiliency plan of the metropolitan cities, and that was the first exercise which was carried in the state of the Bihar. So if briefly we talk about the process which involves like the engagement of the all stakeholders, then it has the climate research, how the past was there in terms of the maximum temperature, minimum temperature, and then the rainfall, and then what are the future projection based on the different secondary sources, based on the data, modeler, the statistical downscaling, whatever will be the scenario with respect to that geographical areas. So what we did in this the process, we consulted along with the mayor and the municipal commissioner of the Patna Municipal Corporation, and that the different stakeholders, the NGOs, civil societies, and the ward councillor of the different ward, and we tried to have the different discussion at a different point in order to know that what are their say when we talk about the vulnerability, when we talk about the things they have experienced. So these are the things which we gone into more detail, like the vulnerability, comprehensive vulnerability assessment, the fragile urban system, the focus group discussion, in which a lot of experts were also invited who knew that area, and they have contributed in terms of the publication, in terms of the article in the newspaper. They were also consulted in order to make the comprehensive resiliency plan for that cities. So this is the city profile. I will quickly go through it, seeing the time. So this city is particular because it in north side there is a river Ganga, and south side is a river Punpun. So that two river constrain the cities to develop linearly, and it leads to the different kind of problem that we will discuss now. So its area is around 95 square kilometer, and it consists of 72 wards recently, and presently the population is around 2 million population. That's in 2011 it was 1.68 million. It's more than 2, but we take in the conservative side, it's a 2 million population now. So if we look into the past climatic trends, it also shows that it has a rising trend in the temperature. That has been observed data. This is here. And then if you look into the future climate projection, it does shows there the scenario which we have taken is the middle path scenario. It's a 4.5. We have not taken the more than that. So in order to have the realistic scenario, it also shows the rising trend. And then if we look into the precipitation trend, it has the very the variability, but it has a very intense the rainfall within a very short duration of the time. So two things with the shared learning dialogue come out. There is an increase in the temperature they have also experienced, and increase in intensity of rainfall with a shorter duration. The number of rainy days has decreased. So we have taken the three. We have not. We have also taken the water, but it still goes on. That has not come up with the because it has very nexus linkage, because it affects the other things also. So we here discussing the three things. The solid waste management. The reason behind is that if the temperature rise is there and then the intense rainfall is there, it also affects the solid waste management, because if it is not managed well, then it will lead to the different kind of scenario. So this is the scenario there, and if you look into the climate fragility statement, it also says the increased temperature lead to the different kind of health and other problem, and increased intensity of rainfall would also look into this one. So second was the sewage. Again, the STP is still under consideration, and the many areas don't have the sewage properly, and then again leads to the two climate condition which we have seen. Then again it leads to the different kind of problem. Then storm water drainage. If intensity of rainfall has increased and the rainy days has decreased, then again it leads to the different kind of situation, and that has been already been acknowledged during the shared learning dialogue, because all stakeholders agreed that this is the problem which we are facing it. Then we look into the vulnerability assessment, which person is more vulnerable, which area is more vulnerable, and they all equally participated. Of course, that the slum population, the poor people were more vulnerable, but the other areas where don't have the intervention from the local government, that were also vulnerable in terms of the managing it. Then we came out with the different ward. These are the ward which were vulnerable to the solid waste. These are the ward vulnerable with the sewage, and these were the vulnerable areas. Then we superimposed all these things in order to understand how the which ward needs more attention in order to address these issues. And so we came up with the different urban systems, or the facile urban system. What will be the recommendation?
So
and
apologies for interruptions.
I'm going to just finish it in time.
If you can, yeah.
Yeah, please. So we came up with the 32 resilience intervention with the shared learning dialogue, and then we find out that the urban local bodies is saying that the people participation is not that much, we can manage it, and people are saying there are the governance issues, there are the urban local bodies issues, there are the interaction issues. These were the things which came up into this one. So that was my presentation, and I duly acknowledge the financial support given by the organizer, and then the Patna Municipal Corporation and the ICLE South Asia was also involved in order to make this one. So thank you. I'm sorry I've taken 2 minutes.
No,
1
it's okay,
minute,
that's
right?
fine.
So,
thank you for your presentation. So, questions? Yes, please.
Yeah, please.
So we take one behind and then a second one from here.
Hello.
Yes.
It's an excellent presentation. I just wanted to know, how have you calculated the vulnerability of different wards in the city?
That's what we did. We tried to we mentioned here that we have the shared learning dialogue, in which we have invited people, and we have said that if these are the two scenarios, then what is your say into that one? If we say that the most of the respondent in that ward, they agreed that it leads to the problem in my ward, then we have said that these are the vulnerable things and all. If suppose less than 20%, 30% population says, then we cross-check with the expert who works in that areas. You have the technical knowledge, means like the GIS map with the digital elevation and all. Then we say, this area is not there. So that's where the things means these were the exercise which carried out in order to take the confidence of the people, where people will say, I was involved in the process of making of these things, so they will contribute in order to address the issues of these things. And it worked well in the case of Patna. And I'm sure you are from the Patna. Now you go, it has been integrated with the Patna master plan, and then people are contributing towards to managing this one.
Thank you. Second question, yes, please.
Yeah, thank you for a nice presentation. Since I am familiar with Patna, I would like to ask, because there is a role of ward level elected representatives to lead the entire waste management. So is there any effort after awareness on reuse, recycle and circular economy to reduce the waste and make it a kind of a productive sanitation in terms of manure and other development, so that it reduces the emission as well as provide good economic support to the corporation?
Very good question, sir, you asked, and to be very honest, it is in their agenda, but it has not come up at a ground level. But in terms of the civil society participation and NGO, there are certain ward they are going for the proper segregation and do the vermicomposting and these kind of things they are going on. But in terms of the in terms of in totality of their ward. It is in their agenda, and on Patnam, the smart city, that CEO, he is taking consideration that we will do it, but it is not, I would say it is not been implemented, but it is definitely in their agenda, because they want to, because a lot of waste is, the wet waste is there. So they are having the problem to managing it, because if it is not segregated at the source, then it leads to the different problem. So they are just trying to, now they are collecting the waste from the household, means the waste has been collected from the household, but unsegregated way. Unless until it will be segregated way, then it will be easy for the municipal corporation to do it. So they are very much in their agenda, and I think very soon they are able to do it, because they are ready with the RFID, that monitoring of the vehicle, from where it will be collected, from where it will be distributed, and from there it will be going into that one. Yeah.
Or not segregation?
Not, I would say not. Incentive has not been the encouraged now, but it's a good option. If you encourage, then people will do it. And most of the city is in NIMBY, not in my backyard. They are all concerned about their backyard, and they are not concerned about this one. That is also an issue. But things has changed. That when the people have participated, then they think this is their responsibility to manage it. Because they said that, the representative from the urban local body, they said that we are not able to do it because you don't cooperate it. So that was the kind of the good environment that was made there in that. So it was very tough also to bring the commissioner, bring the municipal engineer onto the board. It was very tough, but that worked in that case.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
And yeah. So let us move to the last presentation by Ms. Neha Yadav, and she basically addresses the issue of interdependencies in between society and ecosystems, part in the mountain communities in Indian Himalayas, and particularly she focuses on the unevenness of vulnerabilities across the axis of social differences. Please, the floor is yours.
Good morning, all of you. This study is based in the Himalayan state, Uttarakhand. Looking at the past trends and the projected changes in the temperature and precipitation in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. You're not able to hear. Now I am audible. Thank you so much. Looking at the past trends and the projected changes in temperature and precipitation in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, India is one of them. The trends and patterns shows that there is that the patterns are showing that it is changing faster, and it is the change is more faster in the global warming is appearing more faster in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. And looking at the graph, this is the 100 years precipitation and temperature graph of Uttarakhand that is being captured by the Indian Meteorological Department. It shows that with time the temperature increased slightly, but in the meantime the precipitation, the rain and snow doesn't decrease much, but it becomes more evident that there is a variation in the pattern. Now the rainfall days decreases, the intensity increases. Uttarakhand is a most important segment of the Himalayan region. By origin, it is susceptible to natural hazards. And ensuring food security and nutrition has become our biggest challenge in that region. And as it has a knock-on effect on the health status of the community, especially women and children. Well, looking at this table, which summarizes a few points from NFHS 3, 4, and 5, it shows that with time, the outcomes of the nutritional determinants changed, they improved, but the anemia in the age group, the prevalence of anemia in the children aged 6 to 59 months doesn't reduce much. Still, it is more than 50%, which is quite high. The first criteria for choosing this district is the district theory is that it has the prevalence of wasting and underweight is quite high in the age group of under 5. The second criteria for choosing this district is it has the highest combined risk of flood and landslides in that region. The 33 villages are chronically disaster prone in this region. While looking at the atlas of the vulnerability of Indian agriculture and climate change, the Tihiri the Tihiri district has the vulnerability profile that comes in a very high category, and even when we look for the sensitivity factor, it shows that this region is highly drought prone. Till recently we were talking about the mitigation, and we were discussing about the agenda and the interventions related to mitigation. Then what's the need for the adaptation? Is there any specific need in this region that we started talking about adaptation? Yes, it is, because the mountain communities are, as they are the agricultural communities, the 70 or to 80% of the population in this region or in the mountain communities is still dependent on the agriculture. Agriculture over there is rain-fed, and that's how, due to change in the temperature or precipitation, they become highly susceptible. Another important factor is that they have a low diversification in the livelihood. As they don't have much options more than agriculture to diversify, their susceptibility remains same or it increased with time. The consequences of climate change are likely to be more severe on communities and households that are less capable of adapting to them. While looking at this, like when the exposure and sensitivity is high, the adaptive capacity is less, and that results into high vulnerability. Whereas when the adaptive capacity is efficient enough, the sensitivity and exposure is being pushed, it can be reduced, and that's how it leads to the decrease in the vulnerability. So I can sum up by saying that adaptation plays a key role in reducing the exposure and vulnerability to climate change. Climate change is also aggravating the differential vulnerability in the region. We will talk about it in the next coming slides. Now, who is adapting? The mountain community in that region have in a dire need to adapt. But why they are adapting for it? As I already said, climate change is making a significant changes in the patterns. Now, looking at the main reasons for the change in the agriculture and horticulture crops, uncertainty was the most prominent reason, combined most prominent reason. When we look at it, the change in the time of the rainfall or the intensity of the rainfall, whereas the another reason is for the priority in the cash crops. People started growing vegetables and other cash crops considering the demand of the market in the local and the regional market. Whereas you will be surprised to know that the another highest percentage goes to the reason for the changes, the damage the wild animals. The people in that region complain that their crops are being damaged by the monkey, wild boars, and the stray cows. Now, looking at that, what the farmers changed in the last 20 years, what kind of crop they were going and growing in that region, and as we already seen that what was the reasons. These are the crops that is being changed with time. The highest amount of change is being seen in millets, that were the main traditional crops that were being grown before in that region. As millets are being considered as more they are being proven more nutritively high in the quantity. Along with that, they are being considered as pest resistant, drought resistant, or they are being more considered as more resilient crops. Those crops are being now replaced by the cash crops like potato, ginger, arabi, chili, and many more. The reason that is being told by the respondents is that these are the crops on which the wild animals are not being much interested. So with time they realize that growing this crop will be more beneficial for them if they want to earn money out of it. Now looking at the contextual vulnerabilities and the coping capacities during any food instability scenario or condition. As this reason, in every monsoon, one or the other, they face either a cloudburst or a flood event, or maybe after the monsoon a drought event. So it is being seen that the reduction in amount and the number of meals per day is being chosen, or people prefer to move out of the region in search of the work. These options are being mainly chosen by the people who have the marginal land holdings, or the people who doesn't have a land at all. I'm just taking land as a reference because, again, I just want to point out that in that region, agriculture is still being practiced with prominence, and land is a very important asset in that region.
Sorry for interruption. Could you please conclude on your last sentence? We need to finalize.
Sure. I just missed some time initially, so please allow me for that. Yeah, so looking at the ownership and the social and gender differentiation in the villages, more than 50% land is with the dominant caste group, which is the general community category in that region. And even when we see at the female-headed households, that holds the 40% of the respondents were the female-headed household, but they hold 14.3% of land under their name. While looking at the differential vulnerability affecting the livelihood diversification, it has been seen that the SC/ST community or the OBC community doesn't have an option or wasn't able to diversify much, except the agriculture. When they try to develop an asset in the form of hotel, guest house, or small restaurants, the percentage of assets are not very high. Even when looking at the vehicle, tourism is another very important way of earning the livelihood in that region. It is being seen that out of 21, 16 vehicles are being owned by the general community caste group. Looking at the barriers for the adaptation, I just came across there were 3 cross-cutting issues that were affecting the process of adaptation, that is gender, environment or ecosystem, and inclusive governance. The inequality in access to the resources, entitlement, and knowledge and information poses the barrier for adaptation, and the vulnerability for these things leads to low adaptive capacity in that region. Coming on the discussion and conclusion, as this study looks
maybe maximum 1 minute, another 1 minute, and then we need to finalize.
Yes, sure. Thank you. As this study looks for the perception and responses of the rural agriculture community, the livelihood diversification, it is being shown that the livelihood diversification differences are based on the social and social differentiation and vulnerability. The ability to diversify is critical for the mountain region, livelihood, and adaptation to climate change. The barriers to adaptation are not homogeneous among the respondents. the inequity in the land holding, and the inequality in the access to the resources, entitlements, knowledge, and information were the most prominent reason. And one very important point from my side is, and that I could say that it should be considered for the discussion as well. The adaptation process should emphasize a bottom-up approach, which includes local knowledge, network, imagination, and creativity. That is very important to address the climate change in that region.
Thank
Thank you so much. The study is being funded by the UGC India and the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, United Kingdoms. Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna give just one question. Yeah, time for one question because we are running out of time. Any question? Yes. Yes. Please make it short.
Yeah. So just wanted to know that you have shown some figures on the malnutrition, the undernutrition, stunting, and wasting, and are you trying to correlate those figures to the food insecurity, or because it's multifactorial and maybe it may be more influenced by the food patterns of the consumption of the food patterns, and it's multifactorial. So just to know from what perspective that you have shown that, and what you are trying to analyze out of that.
Okay. Thank you so much for your question. This study uses the food system framework. I'm just looking at this issue by the food security lens or a food system lens. And yes, as I've shown the social determinants, the nutritional determinants in the form of stunting, wasting, and underweight, I am definitely looking at the changes in the diet pattern. As I showed you that in the time frame of 20 years, the kind of crops they were growing in the region changes. Earlier they used to go millets. Millets are now being proven or being recognized as highly nutritive, rich crops. And as the pattern of the agriculture crop changes, the choices also changes. The kind of food that is being taken up or being eaten in the family is also being changed. And this change in the food is also being recorded, that it is leading to the diet diversity is become little poor, which used to be very good before. So the changes in the diet pattern definitely have an influence on the health outcomes. Like for example, earlier cholai ka laddu, millet laddu or a millet saag is being eaten by the pregnant or lactating female. That itself helps to reduce the iron deficiency in their body, which these kind of practices are now not being seen very often in that region.
Okay, thank you. So let me just in 1 minute summarize the take-home messages, key messages. Basically, there is a need when we study and implement effective adaptation to climate change that we consider that the vulnerabilities to climate change are influenced by institutional, environmental, and social disparities. So this is one of the key messages we have. And another key message, in order to enhance community-based adaptation to climate change, there is a need to extend water safety plans in order to include climate-resilient measures, and with the need of policy review and capacity buildings. Thank you for the presenters. Thank you for the participants for your active participation. And now we have a coffee break. Enjoy your coffee and have a nice day. If the presenters would like to come to have a joint photo together.